turns bloody at the final stop of the controversial college tour. Several protesters taken into custody outside the Turning Point USA event at UC Berkeley. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dan Ashley. The conservative group's nationwide tour ended tonight here in the Bay Area, and that stop comes exactly 2 months ago to the day when founder Charlie Kirk was shot and killed at the first event of the tour in Utah. For this breaking news update, let's go to ABC 7 News reporter Frances Wang. She's live on the Cal campus where the event just wrapped up not long ago. Frances, you saw a lot of protesters and a lot of security, too.
Yeah, Dan, organizers expected these protesters, many of them showing up hours before doors even opened. There were some tense, even violent moments you can imagine with protesters and attendees just standing within inches of each other. At one point, police even had to move the line.
Where were you 2 months ago today when you heard Charlie had been shot?
The Turning Point USA tour ended here at UC Berkeley with hundreds packed into Zellerbach Hall. Outside, students and other demonstrators chanted and protested throughout the night.
They're using our facilities, resources to do it, which I think is just crazy. It's like, go somewhere, we don't want you here.
Events like this should never happen on this campus or anywhere again.
As Americans, we should be free to go anywhere we want inside of our fucking country without having to worry about mobs of people surrounding us and screaming at us because we want to hold an event and talk. Now, on the inside of the building, they announced that this was the end of the TPUSA tour. To be honest, tonight was the end of TPUSA. That event was bland, it was boring, it was pointless. And really, they served no purpose. The only thing people knew about TPUSA was Mr. Charlie Kirk, his message. He was smart enough to go in front of liberals. He was brave enough to speak up about blacks to their face. And he was also talking about the gay agenda. The only problem he had is when he turned on the Zionists, and his crowd they were going to lose the evangelical support in the United States, probably not even a week from the day they took out Charlie. Had Charlie lived, he was going to bring Candace Owens, and all you would have needed is one or two more people to explain to the evangelicals how evil and demonic the Zionists of the Israeli government really are. And then that would have been it. That would be the end of the Israel lobby. Ben Shapiro and everybody else would just go get fucked. This is still the end of the Zionist lobby. It's just going to drag out for a little bit more. Again, if this was anybody else in America and somebody said you can't come here because of what? Because of my skin color? Because of my what? Who are you to tell me where I can and cannot go? The problem is with TPUSA, they're weak. Charlie Kirk was the only fighter, the only person brave in their whole organization. That's why you never knew none of their faces and you never heard none of their names until he was gone. They're scared. These are not the type of places you go where people are active, that you don't bring other people who are willing to activate. We had people, they were called the Proud Boys, and you saw how scared of them they were, because that was the only answer we had to Antifa. But there's another answer that's coming. See, when you put Antifa, who's being supported by the left, against the Muslim and the Islamic invasion that's also supported by the left, things are going to get good, because now you have men versus soy boys. That's going to be the upcoming answer. But for now, we're going to have to deal with the ideological differences, the gays versus the Christian conservatives. This is Berkeley. This is Northern California. The people in that crowd are there because they want to protect pedophiles. Now, people would say, Rico, what do you mean? That's not why they're there. They're there because no one can tell me what they're there for. I can tell you why they're there. It's called Bill SB 145. What it was a bill so that if you're gay and you're caught with a child who claims to be gay, you don't have to register on the sex offenders list. The man who passed that, Scott Wiener, was also the one behind the bill that made it so it's no longer a felony if you knowingly infect someone with HIV. Everything, and he has other bills that he sponsored. That's what these people are there to defend, to support. That's their hill. You don't live like them. You don't live in Northern California. You're not a part of their cult, so you don't get it. There was a man that was injured here today, but he's outnumbered. Why was he even there to begin with? Let's go back to this protest.
People here for the Turning Point USA event gathered here in line. They have just been let in, but as you can see, the protesters are upset, yelling at police who are standing there ready with riot gear. Tensions escalated. Fights, fireworks, smoke bombs erupted, creating chaos. You know what that noise was? And confusion.
That man right there. Now, people would call him a hero. I would call him a fool. You know you're outnumbered. You have to know your venue. He went there alone. He's wearing a freedom shirt. He's wearing a cross. He had a sign that said, Christ is King. He was actually out there selling t-shirts for people who wanted to buy them before he was assaulted. People are saying that he was arrested. If you're the lone one in a crowd of enemies, the police can't arrest everyone around you. You're the agitator. You're the oddball out. I'm not defending those fucking animals that attacked him. I'm defending the fact that the way it works for the police only have so many resources and so much manpower. They've been defunded. They've been demoralized. He doesn't live in that community, obviously, or he would be a part of the cult. He just came in for the event. The people that are in that crowd, they live in Berkeley. The police have to deal with them. They are the public. In a weird sense, he's the agitator. But I didn't see him as being arrested. I see him as being saved from a mob that could have killed him. You know, it doesn't take much for you to get hit in the head with a rock or get punched the wrong way and you fall down and you hit yourself, to get hurt to the point where you're bleeding internally. You can die from being assaulted. This doesn't seem like a particularly large man. See, someone built like myself, right? I've been to these type of events. I could go and be in one. I could wear the same shirt, a cross. I could wear a hat with a picture of Charlie Kirk on it, and I could stand in the middle of that crowd, and I could handle myself. I would come out on top at the end, but they would eventually have to arrest me. I don't suggest that for everyone else. We need numbers. You cannot be a conservative, a Christian, and a patriot, but also a pacifist. You cannot show up to these events alone. You have to know your venue. Again, he could have died.
Break it up! Break it up! Police! Break it up! Police! Break it up! Hey, white boy, break it up!
They're screaming at him because he's white. Now, these are also white people, but they're gays. If you're a white person, but you're gay, you're gay. You're no longer white. The gays hate white people too. The gays see the whites as stopping them from having their access to children. The gays see white men in uniforms as stopping them from having their sexual liberation. That's why they call anyone who's a white male a fascist. That's what their new definition of a fascist is. It's a straight white male. They want access to children. They've already passed bills to decriminalize it. People like Charlie Kirk and Trump spoke up against it, and that literally got the bill. It was heading east. It was starting to get brought up and voted on in other states. That's already been shut down, and it's already being reversed. But that's thanks to people like Trump and Kirk. That's why they hate them. They want this to be seen as a sexual orientation that deserves protection instead of as a crime. And they were almost there until some man named Charlie Kirk showing up to universities and talking to kids about what their plans were. The kids rejected it. You know when else the kids rejected teachings like this? In the 1930s. And you know what those kids did? They started burning books. See, we're not allowed to talk about the history because the Zionists that wrote the history, they want to write out exactly what happened, because if you knew history was repeating itself, you might want to do things a little bit different. This is the wet dream of Magnus Hirschfeld right now. They want their conquest and their pursuit of children, they want it to be uninterrupted. People like Trump, people like Kirk, interruptions. People like me, Candace, Nick, we all have conservative values. We believe in protecting children. We believe in our country. We believe in, our Constitution, our First Amendment, of course, the Second Amendment. California, anti-American, no Second Amendment. These people can sit here. They can attack police, attack other people. They can wear masks. They can do whatever they want and get away with it. I got friends and family being robbed and killed in California. The police don't even have enough budget to do proper investigations anymore. I keep telling people, law enforcement is going to be a memory in certain places. They're going to be replacing them with counselors, and it will be lawlessness. But that's a part of the communist takeover. These people are voting for it. We don't live in these cities. There's not much we can do. Him showing up and risking his life to sell t-shirts and to prove a point, in my opinion, it wasn't worth it, because if he would have passed away, he's not remembered. We need people like that to stay alive. We need them to talk. We need them to be healthy. We don't need themselves throwing themselves into the fire or into the lion's den just to make small little points. It's not helping. The police, by arresting him, did him a favor. Had they stayed out of it, he probably wouldn't still be breathing. Now, I can't show you all this video because he's leaking, but...
Bleeding, bitch! Hey, white boy! You're bleeding, white boy! Hey, white boy! White boy!
They keep yelling at him because he's white.
Relax. What happened, white boy? Hey, white...
Taunting him because he's white.
You guys step back.
And look at the cops.
You guys can film with this.
So many of the police have been demoralized in this city. There's really not even very many white men on the force anymore. So there's a piece of these cops that's sympathetic to the rioters, to the animals, to the criminals. They're only going to go so far. But in my opinion, this was a sign of mercy. They saved him from the mobs. So we got to thank the cops for doing that and stepping in. TPUSA should have had military with them. We needed a show of force, not of complacency. Why they did not show up with Humvees and men, showing that we are not afraid, that we're brave, and why would they not stand up to these people? The police are going to stay neutral and do their jobs. We should have had an abundance of even more. With all the money that TPUSA made off of the funeral alone, and how much money they got in their reserves, you mean to tell me they couldn't show up with an American version of SEAL Team 6 with their own basically Blackwater military group that could have showed up and been out here to protect the people that were attending the events? More could have been done, but they want to appear weak. See, right now, if you're white, they're automatically going to assume you're with the Zionists. You're with the enemy of the outgoing leaders of this country. The new incoming people are not going to have mercy on you. And the police in certain areas are pretty much empathetic to the new owners of America, the globalists. And guess who their army is made of? Men. Men of Islam, men of faith, men who will fight to the death. Now, as we all know, the left eventually will eat itself. This gay crowd and the Islamic crowd are eventually going to clash with each other. And that's going to be a sight to see. Because eventually, of course, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. All the gay, trans stuff, the pedophile, it's not going to fly with Allah and Islam. And these two groups will clash. Now, this group is smart enough to know when to back. That's why you never see them show up in numbers against black people besides that one time at We Spot. And there's the black lady at the Gold's Gym. You know, she showed up to talk to Scott Wiener the other day. And Scott told her, hey, trans women, which are men, they're women too. And she stood up by herself screaming and yelling. And she finally realized she was just another black woman, useful idiot. All this time voting for these policies, and you should have been supporting Trump because she's wasting her time talking to Scott. He's the one that pushed forward that bill to protect pedophiles. He's not on your side. You're talking about protecting women in locker rooms. Well, you're a Trump supporter. You know, all that lesbian bullshit goes out the window once you find out a man can kick your ass because he has on a wig and he's not going to be arrested and no one's going to feel sorry for you. You know, this is an awakening right now that's bringing reality back into alignment, and we desperately needed this. We need this. This has to happen. There must be a fall because you'll appreciate it once you stand back up. You have to lose everything and hit rock bottom to appreciate the good times. We took everything for granted for too long. We thought everything was fine and it wasn't. We buried our heads and now look, we've lost our families. We've lost our children. We lost our country. Your wives have left. Your children are all gay and confused. And your country is controlled and ran by Zionists. You know, is this what our ancestors fought for in the great wars? Vietnam, the Korea War, is this was it? So that we can just lay back in peaceful times and watch someone else just come in and conquer us without firing a single shot? And you're too scared, you're too afraid to put yourself out there and to defend what's yours? Should be embarrassed.
Hey, you got cracked up. You got cracked.
So that's the guy he was fighting with. They say he's Muslim. He grabbed the chain from his neck. They said he punched him in the face 15 times or so, but he probably wasn't the only one. It was a mob. Multiple people hit him. Luckily, the police were there to arrest him, or he could have died. You know, this is my advice. Don't go alone, and don't go with people that are not active, that are not ready. You know, it's a man's game. You know, we let women come into these spaces and talk, and all it does is just make you weaker, because you start thinking, well, if a woman's talking, then I don't need to be aggressive. I don't need to be tough. I don't need to be sure. And then when the violence starts, where are these women? They're dug down somewhere hiding. Are they out there in the fray? Are they out there swinging? Are they? No, they're not. That's why when people say we got to repeal the 19th, I understand. Why are we going to listen to someone who will advocate for a fight that they won't participate in? It doesn't make any sense. But yet here you are listening to women. And when the fighting starts, guess who takes all the blows? Guess who gets hurt? Guess who dies? It's just the men. These other groups that's coming in, is the Islamists, they don't listen to women. You won't. It's hard to find them outside of their house most of the time. Who do you think is going to win when the fighting starts? The side that's humoring women, or the side that puts them in safety of their homes and they go out in the front and they protect them? Which side do you think is going to come out on top?
Give me your other hand. Can you please move it away from me? What's that?
He appears to be camera shy. Again, the police can't arrest. There's too many of them. They don't have enough cars. They don't have the resources. Also, it's a liberal city, no cash bail. It'll just be a revolving door. The DA will drop all the charges because they're a part of the army that this city is creating. These protesters are soldiers for the city and for the leadership of the state. This is their army. So they're not going to prosecute their own soldiers. You have to know your venue. You have to know where you're at all times. Let's go back to the news report.
At least one person was hurt, multiple arrested. Attendees and supporters of Turning Point's founder Charlie Kirk not deterred.
When you see someone that courageous with their faith, you're like, why am I not that courageous with my faith? I want to be that courageous with my faith. I should be not afraid to wear a shirt that says Jesus on it, even though everyone looked at me today and gave me dirty looks. It's like, that's okay.
I want to encourage free ideas expression. I don't want one side to dominate the other. And I think there's valid points on both sides.
Speakers, including actor Rob Schneider, questioning free speech here on campus.
Berkeley, shame on you folks. Shame on you.
And addressing the protesters outside.
You're coming from a place of emotion. And that's tough.
Even without Kirk, the Night and Turning Point USA tour concluded with his signature Prove Me Wrong format. Attendees given time to line up and ask questions or share their points of view.
Besides Snyder, they didn't even show us who else was on stage because it was a waste of time and it was pointless. It was dead. There was nobody of importance there. Nobody cares to show up. The greatest allies TPUSA could have had would have been friends of Charlie. TPUSA has turned on them. The people that Charlie was platforming to come up to speak, those people are prominent on the internet. They would have been the future. They would have kept things going. But see, TPUSA, apparently it seems like they went along with this for the money. And right now who's buttering their bread is the Zionists, Israel. So they don't care about the quality of the work. It seems like more so Israel's paying them to not say anything and just to stay out of it. This is a war, and the Zionists are losing. But if they lose and you side with them, that means you lose too. So what does it look like after your loss? What happens to your country, to your state, to your city? We're already watching it unfold in New York and Minnesota. We're watching it spread. Communism, people are offering free rent if you vote for them. They want to freeze rent, freeze utilities, start offering UBI. All your freedom of self-determination to support your family, all of it disappears and goes away. All because certain people around you don't want to work, but you do. And I don't know what the answer to that is besides separation. It's not easy for me to say or to explain because I hate that the prospect doesn't seem bright. It's not like there's a lot of different ways this can go. We've seen this story play out. We're not the first country to go through a communist revolution. We're not the first civilization to be invaded by another greater influence. And this is not the first time a proxy war has happened right in front of us. See, the proxy war right now is between Israel and the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab and Benjamin Netanyahu. Notice Schwab has never invited Netanyahu to any of the Davos events. They're at war, but they want influence over the United States. So they're trying to remove the Zionists and take their place. And I think it's going to happen because they have the numbers of men. The Zionists, their whole thing was the gay agenda, turning men into women. Even the trans agenda is patriarchal because what you're doing is you're removing women and replacing them with stronger men. It's still men at the top, even in the trans agenda, but not the gay agenda. The gay agenda is to feminize men. The trans agenda is to make men stronger just in women's spaces. The patriarchy is going to win because we're humans and we're stronger. I don't understand. This shouldn't be too much to understand. People are just in denial or they don't watch enough of my material, so they're not completely up to date. That's why I try to do so much material every day so that people can understand the context of what's happening around them. I'm a stenographer in a way. In the future, if there's no electricity and I'm have to come talk to everyone in person only because there's no internet, I will have to be the one to explain to them how we got to where we are and how not to end up in a cycle and end up here again in the future. We want to end up better off than we came in. This event at Berkeley was a waste of time. They didn't even show you who was on stage. It was a bunch of empty, low energy weasels, wimps, people that are just paid. Everyone's quiet. No one's questioning about what's happening that happened to Kirk. There's only a handful of us even doing videos. I'm doing videos about Charlie Kirk, his assassination, the cover-up every week. So is Ian Carroll. So is Candace Owens. So is Mr. Let Go. So is Jesse on Fire. There are certain people that are keeping this going when everyone else wants to sweep it under the rug. I'm the one that did the deep dives on Erica Kirk in their initial first videos where I showed she's an actress. This was all fake. Charlie was in love. She was in business. He just thought he got lucky and God sent her to it. No, the Zionist sent her to you as a handler to watch you and to break you away from Candace. She's a little bit too hard to control. But you see, Candace is out of reach. She's not doing public events. She knows the danger. Charlie underestimated it. You know, we look back on the video of when he passed, he's hit in the neck, allegedly. They lay him on the side where his hit is so that what, it could just pour out. But when you look down, nothing's pouring out. Then they showed me all these videos, Sona. 2 weeks later, Sona AI. I don't even know if the video I saw of all that shooting out of his neck, I don't know if that was real. I don't know if the people that were in front of the stage saw the same thing happen. There's a gag order on them, and none of them are making videos. Why are we the only ones making videos? Why? What happened to all the students and all the witnesses? Why aren't they getting on camera and doing podcasts and doing shows? Why is nobody talking to them? Why is nobody asking, are the videos you've seen online of what happened and what you saw in person, do they line up? Is it the same? Matter of fact, if he's hit over here, wouldn't you lay him on this side so that you can keep the fluid inside and then you want to gouge it and stop it? None of that happened. No one even took off their fucking Ray-Ban shades, their dark color shades. Nobody even took them off so they can get a better look at the injury. But we're conspiracy theorists and we're wrong for asking questions and for keeping this open and never letting it die. Go to my Instagram, Right Wing Rico. My profile picture is still Charlie Kirk because I admired what the man was doing. I respected it because nobody else cares to do it. Most people just give up. Well, we're not giving up. Like and subscribe, share the video. I have a bunch of lives to do today, so I'll be on. We have like so many different topics we're going to be going over today. So tune back in, follow the page, Right Wing Rico or The Single Boyfriend on YouTube. I'll be back in about 20 minutes, and I'll see you guys again shortly.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.